PBL is a very inclusive approach that we adopt here at Inventure.
Hi, good morning. I'm Parul Kedia and I teach history to middle and senior students. Today I'm going to be talking about how we exactly come up with a problem question for our PBL. There's a huge process around it. First we go check out all the other curriculums, what other subjects are covering, what topics they're covering, find connections between other subjects and the topics we are covering in our history curriculum, for example. It has to have a lot of scope for creativity. It has to have a lot of scope for analysis, evaluation, a lot of scope for research, and of course it has to be exciting for the students. It has to inspire them, it has to motivate them. I've had students do independent research as well, and I've also had students come up to me and saying, okay ma'am, next, what is the next PBL question going to be? So yes, they're usually super excited and really work very hard towards coming up with the PBL projects.
Hi, I'm Srinidhi and this is
Kanishka.
So we also have another online teammate, Tanishi. We chose chemistry for our PBL as the alloy and metal topic really interested us. So we also wanted to incorporate the war aspect of what we were learning in history. So we chose to incorporate that too. And from chemistry and history, we made a problem question. And the problem question was essentially to create weapons, the history aspect, based on making alloys.
I'm Pooja. My daughter is Pragya. She's in 6A, and her topic was, she was in the biology PBL. It was a beautiful experience to see them collaborate on this entire project, because they did a lot of research. They created the fossils, they classified them, they had to actually apply their mind and see ki kaun sa fossil kis mein hai. And then they had that they did an entire video about the doctors finding the fossils and explaining them. So the entire process seemed to be very interesting for them and for us to watch. It was a complete surprise for me because she refused, she hadn't told me anything earlier. She said, I want you to come there and see the presentation. So it was really nice. They had the group interaction that they did was amazing.
Hello, we're group 4 and we're doing geography as our PBL subject. Carbon capture and storage. Problem statement. How can we use technology to solve climate change?
So, reducing carbon dioxide emissions. The most significant greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide and has increased by more than 50% since the Industrial Revolution began. Some inventions are being made to reduce emissions, such as carbon capture, utilization, and storage.
Hi, I'm Jayashree and I'm the parent of Anayata Agarwal, grade 6A, and I'm here for the PBL celebration of learning for today. And the experience I think has been wonderful. It's so great to be back on campus maybe after 2019, 2.5 years, and I'm happy that the children are all back on campus for now. It's been a terrible, I think, COVID stint with all of them being at home, and I think the children are very glad to be on campus, and I am also. I think the presentations have all been taken care of very well. The children collaborated together. It was great to see all the teamwork of all the children coming together and putting that up.
Hi, I'm Arpita.
I'm Lavanya.
And so Lavanya heads physics and I head biology, and we're going to talk to you about the PBL approach, which we have in middle school, grade 6, 7 and 8. So this is something that we started about 2 years ago. We use the problem-based learning to teach our concepts in middle school. So essentially what we do is that, we've got topics in 2 terms, right? Term 1 and term 2. So we introduce our topics in the form of a problem question. In fact, when we're doing the problem questions themselves, there's a couple of things that we look at. One, of course, is that we introduce what the students are going to do across all 5 subjects. So when we're introducing it, say for example in my biology lesson, they also know what they're going to be learning in chemistry, in physics, in history, and geography.
In addition to that, it's over and above the problem question, even when the investigation is on, somewhere in the middle of it, they suddenly have that connection, and that connection that they make is so organic, and that's, I think, the aha moments that we obtain from there is the best part of doing a problem-based learning, is because we don't have to necessarily say, you know what, this is something that you learned from history or bio, and we're going to try and use it in a physics class. But the kids come up with saying, this is what we learned in bio and this is what we learned in chemistry. Now let's use that together in our physics class. I think that's the best part about it.
So we use what we call inquiry journals in the first part of the project, which is something that we curate ourselves. There are bits of research in there which we curate. We give them the research that's required. We give them data. Do you want to talk about the data?
The way the world is moving, analysis of data is extremely important. So we sort of, all the problem questions that we've had, we looked at immense amount of data, and the kids have kind of like gathered and analyzed this data to see what kind of facts and supports do they have for their problem question of the artifact that they're building out of it.
So for an example, grade 6 this year, this particular COL that we're doing right now, their problem question was on fossils. So they looked at the geological time scale, which is not something that we normally teach in biology in grade 6, but that was their data component. They looked at the geological time scale. They looked at the fossils that they had come up with, the ones that they had to kind of classify. That was what they were required to do. But as an added layer to that, they also looked at what was the time scale that those fossils could possibly belong to, looking at something called index fossils. Again, that's not something that we teach in the normal curriculum at all. But because we are doing a PBL, they get to make all of these, and they get all of these additional information, which they probably would not be able to cover otherwise. And then towards the end, we also bring in the makerspace component. So in makerspace, they learn how to work with certain tools. And since we've been online primarily the last 2 years, a lot of it has been the online tools. So if you look at their artifacts now, what they're presenting now, it's using the online tools that they've actually learned to use in makerspace. So our grade 8, for example, did a lot of work on SketchUp, and they actually did a lot of 3D modeling of various structures that they'd come up with using that SketchUp. We've had videos, we've had stop motion videos, we've had podcasts in which students have, come up with their artifact. They've done little skits and actually converted it into a little video which they've actually shown. And of course, you've got the slides and the Google Sites. Those are very common now. I mean, they use it all the time to show.
And the skills have become so common that it's like, oh yeah, this is like an easy task.
We chose physics this year, and our problem question was, can we see sound? Imagine that you had to make a device to help you visualize sound. How would you make this device to visualize music made by you?
This year we chose physics to make our final artifact on because we found the problem question very intriguing, and we were curious on the different ways that we could visualize sound.
In our artifact, there were 2 experiments. The first one was using a speaker, a piece of paper, and some salt. When we played a certain frequency on the speaker, the paper vibrated and the salt moved around. We increased the frequency and saw how it affected the salt. In our second experiment, we did a stop motion. The stop motion used another speaker, a hose with water, but it was all in stop motion. And then we increased the volume of a certain frequency to see how it affected the amplitude of the sound waves.
In our inquiry journals, we researched on heavy metals, what they are, and the different types of heavy metals. We also researched on how heavy metals that are polluting water bodies affect different things growing around it.
So in our final artifact, we presented our solutions, and our first solution were water testing kits. So these kits had chemicals like hydrochloric acid and ammonium hydroxide, which helped in testing the water if heavy metals like lead, mercury, and nickel are present. And our second solution was vertical gardening, which is an urban kind of gardening where plants are grown in a vertical space, and they can be grown on roofs or walls in particular styles. And our last solution was spreading awareness, and even though this is a simple solution, we believe it can create a much bigger impact, as if more people know about the problem, then more people can help in solving it. And we also made posters for this, and we translated them into different languages for a better reach.
So that's what our PBL is about. Of course, it's about the kids enjoying themselves, having a choice in what they want to present,
and
what they want to learn, how they learn, all of that. they get to learn a lot more. So we actually bring in, we have this whole concept of vertical alignment, because the next thing that they're going to do after this is a board syllabus, the IGCSE, but we actually managed to bring in some components from there into middle school, so it's not such a huge big challenge when they move from middle school into the board batches. Yeah, and there's of course all the other skills of collaboration, because they work as groups.
Yeah.
Communication, because you can see them presenting now and they're so confident by the end of the year when they start making their presentations. It's really fantastic.